What's up, YouTube? It's Cozmoe with another tutorial. This time it's on my new song, Ex Machina. This track is the first single off my new concept album. I also just dropped an animated music video for this, so I'll put a link to that in the description. Let's take a little listen to that real quick. All right, let's jump on in. Synth number one, here's my main lead. Looks like it started as donkong's Let Me Go lead tutorial, so I'll put a link to that. Go watch their tutorial. Looks like I then added a bunch of my own effects. Let's hear it. A lot of their tutorials, and a lot of tutorials in general, you're gonna have an LFO going all over the place. So here's this LFO in trigger mode that's mapped to 16 spots. You know, so you wanna be doing this on your own too. Just take one shape, send it everywhere, see what happens. I think the way that I made this my own, other than adding these normal effects here, this looks like all pretty standard stuff. The main way that I made it my own is combining this tutorial with AU5's phase mod tutorial. So I'll put a link to that as well. He shows you how you can make a specially length sine wave, and you can put it in the noise oscillator. And you can modulate things with it, and you can see I'm modulating the wavetable position with that. It's a really sound I really like, so check that out. I'm sure my patch is a little different than theirs too, because I don't have all of their plugins. Then, you know, a lot of this has to do with kind of counterpoint, like Bach style, lots of thirds and lots of sixths. But you can see I do have some fifths in here. Like here's a perfect fifth. Perfect fifth. Actually, a lot of perfect fifths in here. This part at the end feels more like Bach with the third. You could call this contrary motion, where you've got one thing going up and one thing going down. So yeah, so basically combining the phase mod with a donkong tutorial. Going farther with that main synth here, I've layered the main melody with a bell sound. Also layered it with a patch that I made. This is actually a instrument I recorded on my friend's piano, where I muted the string and recorded every note, put it on a drum rack. And then again, I've layered it again with another instrument I recorded. This was me. I bought a Guzheng zither off of Craigslist and muted the string again. So lots of variation to the timbre. Here's a second synthesizer that I've got coming in, doing the main melody. Just looks like saws. Here, I think you can really hear more of that AU5 phase mod. My favorite thing to do is just to control the filter. So without it, with it. You really get some cool sounds in there. It can be subtle, but I like subtle sometimes. So a lot of that on there. Here's a third synth. Here you can hear how much the AU5 phase mod is doing to a sine wave. All right, trick number 3 is this shortcut for when you go to the matrix, you can add vibrato right here. I've done that. That'll create an LFO going to master tune for you via the mod wheel. In this patch, again, I'm using the AU5 phase mod just all over throughout this track. Really like that sound. And let's see, maybe I went in here. Yep, and I'm automating the modulation wheel because that's how you bring in the vibrato. Tip number 3, my vocal rack. Let's see what we got without this thing. So we've got one chain with manipulator down an octave. The alternator's up. There's that. And then I got another chain that's dry. And then I've got a third chain that's off, but I'm bringing it in here. And this one is only down 3 on the formant. So it's kind of like bringing in another formant at a different setting to layer in with this other one that the first one was down 12 on the formant. Sometimes I'll have a slow LFO modulate the formant too, but I don't think I'm doing that right here. And just automating the volumes of these. So it's just creating like more movement. It's not as simple as just like, here's a vocal with the formant filter. It's kind of morphing between the octave down one and the -3 down one and the dry one. Makes sense on this song since I'm saying I'm part man, part machine. Kind of makes sense that you'd be using a machine type vocoder effect or formant filter effect. Tip number 4 is to sidechain your synths with your vocals. There's a lot going on here, so I've got a sidechain, and I'm not listening to the kick or the snare. I'm listening to my vocals. And that's going to be pushing the synths out of the way ever so slightly. Looks like I'm also doing one other thing. I'm automating this macro, which is bringing in OTT and reverb. Tip number 5 is another way to add fast hi-hats. I've done this before in a drum rack, but here I'm using the simpler in slice mode. Just go get a hi-hat loop, put it in here, put on slice mode, adjust the sensitivity. I was able to keep it at 100%. Put a fast arpeggiator on there and automate the rate and the steps. If it's not long enough, you can use this note length MIDI effect to automate or just make it longer. So that's convenient. Some volume control, some OTT, I guess. Some Haas effect, why not? You got yourself some crazy hi-hats. All right, thanks for tuning in. Check out the new track. This is part of my most ambitious project yet, a concept album. In case you're watching this right after I dropped it, stay tuned as I'm dropping the whole album this spring. It's a whole concept album, so stay tuned. Hit subscribe, y'all. Y'all be safe.